Hey everybody, this is Matthew Soltesiak, and you're listening to Not the Same Old Lions podcast, part of the Minute Media Podcast Network. This season, it's all grit. I speak with a variety of guests and interview key players, gaining more insight on what makes this team go. The Detroit Lions are now in a new, grittier era, and we look beyond just the kneecaps when it comes to the analysis. Welcome to another episode. In this episode, we discussed the Detroit Lions' 31-29 victory over the Minnesota Vikings. We'll talk about the rocky start, the crazy ending, along with the offensive explosion in the middle to go along with that defensive play. We'll discuss where the Lions stand coming out of the NFC Road win as well. That and more. Let's get to it, Lions fans.
This is Jameer Gibbs, and you're listening to Not the Same Old Lions podcast.
Joining me today is James Cook, senior sports writer for the Traverse City Record Eagle. You can also hear him on the Get Around podcast that drops on Mondays. James, good to have you here.
Always good to be here on a Victory Sunday.
That it is. Joining us is Coach Jerry Angers, former Michigan High School Coach of the Year, as well as Coach of the Week by the Detroit Lions, and current scouting and training director for Bull Rush Sports. Coach, it's good to have you here.
Good to see your smiling faces, the two of you. We must have had a victory.
Yes, we did. So, as we do, your overall reaction, just in a sentence or two, how you feeling, Coach? We'll start with you.
Ecstatic, just excited because of the adversity that they overcame again today. You know, guy gets hurt, guy steps up. Guy causes fumble, we step up. I mean, it's just beautiful on how they complement each other.
All right, James, how about you?
Yeah, they had all kinds of adversity, down multiple scores on the road against the best team in the division, and then to come back and beat them, not only to take the division lead, but to have the lead in the entire NFC as of right now. Is just a huge win for a whole host of reasons.
For sure. And, you know, I look at it as the Lions won a tough game on the road in the division. It wasn't perfect. It was a roller coaster of emotions. I can't believe how tired I was after the game. I can only imagine how tired they were. But they got the job done. They got the W, and that's what mattered the most. All right, guys, here's Coach Campbell right after the game.
That was a good win. That was a good win. You know, I told the team to say that I was proud of them is a massive understatement. You know, we knew that team was they were playing good football, and they have been now for 5 weeks, coming off a bye, and we knew they were going to be ready, and it was going to come down to the wire. The team knew this. We talked about patience, man. Patience, keep your composure, communication, and then attitude. And our guys did that. We hung in there, and we didn't bat an eye. Things, you know, appear to start going a little south there at the end. Got the ball back. You know, we stopped a 2-point conversion, which was huge, and defensively. And then Goff and that O-line takes us right down the field with Gibbs and St. Brown and, man, Bates. How about that? What a kick. What a kick, man. Just a great team win, complimentary football across the board, offense, defense, special teams when we need it most, and really proud of these guys. That's a huge win on the road, tough environment, first one, and you don't want to say must win, but we needed that in a bad way.
So as Coach Campbell said, massive understatement to say how proud he was of the team, talked about being a full team effort in this one, bringing everybody together, everyone doing a part to make this a team win. So let's start as we do with what we liked. Coach, what do you got?
Offensive scheme, our defensive plan, shorthanded up front, what we did. Special teams, of course, because we kicked a big field goal to win it. And, of course, our punts were, as usual, he did a great job with Fox. You know, most of all, I think the team fight, clawing, picking up teammates and coaches when there was a mistake made. It's just it's team football, and that's what the Lions are all about.
Yeah, I mean, you hit on a lot of different things there, but yeah, that team effort again, right? I mean, offense was off to a slow start in this game, and the defense, man, I mean, save for one play, they played an amazing first half. Other than that run by Aaron Jones for a touchdown, everything else they did was really good in that first half, and we'll get into those spots even more. James, what's something you saw in the first half or anywhere in the game that just you liked about it?
For the whole game, I guess I just liked how Amon-Ra St. Brown came up huge in a big game. He outplayed Justin Jefferson, outproduced him, yeah, catch wise, yard wise, and just keeps in. I think it's important too that he's really dominated Minnesota over the last while. I mean, this is his third game in a row against Minnesota that he's had a touchdown and 100 yards or more against just the Vikings. And he outplayed Justin Jefferson, who was a guy who had been a Lion killer. He was still pretty effective in this game, but they didn't let him dictate it as much as he has in previous games. You know, that they showed the stat about how he has over 1,000 yards just against the Lions in his career in 8 games, which is the most any 1A player has against another team in NFL history. So to just hold him to 7 yards, 81 yards, or 7 catches for 81 yards. He had a touchdown, but I don't think that should have been a touchdown. He put his hand straight back right into the DB's chest and pushed him away. That was blatant offensive pass interference that he got the star treatment. Amon-Ra St. Brown didn't, but he didn't need it. An interesting statistic on that: the Lions have not drawn a pass interference on the opposing team this year. Not a single player for the other team has been called for pass interference against the Detroit Lions.
Well, that's because the other teams don't do it. Only the Lions do it.
Only Terry Arnold and Carl Davis.
Yes, apparently those guys. And yeah, James, those are some impressive stats you brought up, right? Keeping Justin Jefferson to that number, because all we heard coming in was what his numbers have been against the Lions, which have been pretty phenomenal. And then you look at Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's the box score we like to see from him. 8 catches on 8 targets for 112 yards, a touchdown, and 35 yards was his longest one. And the man, and we'll talk more about the receiving corps, but the man getting him the ball was Jared Goff. He started the game 15 for 15 with 188 yards. That was how he started the game. And Coach, we kind of texted about this, and they said, you know, hey, if Jared Goff has a quarterback rating of 150 or better, he'll be the first quarterback in NFL history to do this. And I got the text message to prove it, but you said he'll have a quarterback rating of like 140 something, and the Lions win the game, because that's the most important part, is the Lions win the game. Well, he had a quarterback rating of 140, and the Lions won the game. What did you see out of the quarterback there, Coach?
Wow. Wow. I mean, the guy's incredible. We'll go back to the pass interference calls. We don't get any pass interference calls against us because Jared Goff is destroying people and our receivers are wide open. He's throwing before anybody can get near him. So I'll give him that. He's the best against the blitz. He's the best in the last 4 games. Nothing rattles him. His game plan and his getting himself preparing for the game is just unbelievable, because all of the play, you know, when you're going 15 for 15, should have been 16 out of 16, except for a batted ball. You go 18 for 18, you go 12 for 12. The guy is, the game is slow to him right now, and nobody else can catch up with him. So hopefully he keeps doing it.
I agree with that. And, you know, we saw him move up in the pocket, stay in the pocket, but move up. They almost had a strip sack on that play, and he hits Patrick for a first down on a critical play. And Goff said he didn't go deep a lot. Well, he didn't say that. We saw that he didn't go deep a whole lot. Yeah. But after the game, Goff said the Vikings were giving them a ton of check down opportunities, and it was smart to take those and not force it deep. James, were you noticing that? I mean, did it surprise you that you didn't see more shots downfield to J-Mo? Or, I mean, is that just kind of you taking what the Brian Flores defense gives you?
I think that's exactly it. That they were taking what they were giving them, and they didn't want to get beat by Jameson Williams for, you know, a game-changing 80-yard touchdown that totally flips the game. So, I mean, it's a matter of if you want that or, you know, death by 1,000 paper cuts. And the Lions delivered the 1,000 paper cuts. I mean, Jared Goff, this game, the last few games against Minnesota, it's just been amazing. Brock Purdy is the only other quarterback that's managed a passer rating of over 100 against the Vikings this season. And that was 101. Goff was 140.9. His last 3 games, he's completing 85% of his passes. Like that's that's Madden numbers, video game numbers on the easy setting. And 8 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's just crazy. And for some reason, I don't know what it is, Flores' blitz is gift to everybody else, but not Jared Goff.
Yeah, and Goff handled it well. And there were times the offensive line wasn't perfect, and we're going to get to that. But, Coach, I know you were looking at this defensive scheme quite a bit, looking at film leading up to this. What is it that you saw what the Lions were able to do with the offense against Brian Flores?
Well, we saw, we talked about it a little bit in pregame, and I put some video out there also. They run a lot of that cover 2 set. They don't want to allow the deep ball. I talked to you guys about shell and stuff like that. They'll keep those 2 guys back, kind of keep the under routes in. When they get in their blitz package, they don't want to give up the deep shot in the blitz package. So if they don't get it home, they're gonna give you the check down route. So I think the biggest thing, and I love what the Lions did, when you're putting 8 and 9 guys on the line of scrimmage, it is awful hard to drop into pass coverage. And I showed that one where Van Kinkel had that pick a couple weeks ago, pick 6, because it was an inside slant route. Well, if you know what the Lions did today was they ran a lot of tight splits so that they could get those out routes, because those guys are all tightened in and there's no way they're going to catch, especially with our speed. And again, you're going to check down to Gibbs or check. How about the catch Monty had, the one-handed catch, and he had to juggle that, and spin around and everything, but there's still nobody was near him to jar the ball loose. So I think that's one of the biggest things. And I want to talk about one scheme that I was so excited about was the goal line one. The one where they threw the long pass to Saint, where they threw the long one to Saint. Okay. So they slide protect to the left. They bring TP across in motion, and he blocks the backside DN, which gave Goff time to throw the ball downfield. Why did he pick that, or why did he do it at that time? Because they lined up and either was a cover 1 or cover 0, and Saint hit the seam for the touchdown. And so that's the stuff. That's the Jared Goff going the 15 for 15 or 18 for 18. That's Ben Johnson, the great coordinator he is, and the Lions scheme is just so unbelievable. And they took basically the Vikings' strength and turned it into their weakness, and it was just unbelievable schemes.
Well, and they were getting contributions from everybody in the receiving room. I mean, on 3rd and crucial, they looked at Khalif Raymond, who makes an incredible catch, and then they hit him a couple plays later, I believe, on the same drive for that 25, 26-yard, maybe the 21-yard touchdown play. Mm-hmm. I mean, Khalif Raymond, 3 catches on 4 targets with that touchdown. Tim Patrick, 2 catches on 2 targets, 25 yards. So the receiving core did their job. I mean, Jamison Williams wasn't a factor catching the ball, but we saw him out there blocking in some key elements. What did you guys see out of J-Mo blocking and the receiving core in general helping Goff out?
Yeah, I've got in my notes from the game on Tim Patrick's blocks helped spring both of the Lions' first 2 touchdowns. The one that Jerry talked about, sealing the edge there on the pass to St. Brown. The one before that where he got the block on Byron Murphy on Gibbs's long touchdown run. I mean, he got that block on the edge, and then Gibbs did the rest. He put a couple of guys in spin cycle and everything with his moves. But I mean, that block was what kind of sealed him away from it. And that was also an interesting look on that play, because they put Brock Wright in at fullback on that play, and then they had him go the other way. They ran away from where the lead blocker was going, and I think that kind of messed with the defense a little bit, because usually you follow that fullback and that takes you to the ball a lot of the time.
All right, well, switching over to the running game, you guys, Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, Sonic and Knuckles. I think this shows how valuable they both are. We're not having a good first quarter. David Montgomery goes down with an injury, and you still have Jahmyr Gibbs. If this is the Philadelphia Eagles and Saquon Barkley goes down, if your most teams and your top running back goes down, there is a sharp drop-off to your next running back. And I'm not going to say who's 1A and 1B here. They're both 1AA, if you ask me. They are both excellent. And knowing that you have a trusted guy that can go in, that's going to do just as well, maybe slightly different skill set, one to the other. But what does this do for your offense, Coach? I mean, you don't even have to change the play calling at all, right?
I know. I mean, and we talked about that. Gibbs, wouldn't put his foot in the dirt as much last year, where he was always trying to get outside. This year, he's his patience as a running back right now. And I'm going to tell you, where does he learn that from? He's learned that from Monty, because they're brothers. Those two guys are incredible. And Monty goes down, and I think Gibbs right there just says, get on my back. Let's go. I'll carry you guys, and I'm going to pick my brother up. And I just, you pick them. There's no way to stop either one of them. I'm telling you that, right? I mean, you guys know that. We watch that. Yeah, we're biased because we're huge Lion fans, but you just said it. Too deep, 1A. I don't care what you call them. They're the best. It's the best. It's why it's the best running tandem in the league, and it's why we have the best running offense in the league. Granted, we don't have as many yards as the Ravens with the running quarterback also in King Henry, but I look at our stats every week, the two of them to King Henry's, and we're even. So that's all that matters.
Well, and again, in most teams, if you just had either David Montgomery or Jahmyr Gibbs, and then you had Sione Vaki and Craig Reynolds, you'd be like, hey, we've got a pretty good running back room. Yeah. But James, like, how nice of a luxury is this that you don't drop off to what most people consider a number 2 or number 3 back? You're switching it out for another 1A, 1B back.
Oh yeah, it's incredibly helpful. You saw during the game where Monty had that little ankle injury or knee injury for a little bit and left the game for a little while. They don't have to change their game plan whatsoever because one of their running backs is out, because the other one can do everything too. And it would be the same way around the other way if Gibbs gets dinged up during a game. So they don't have to change up anything. It's great. On offense, they have those two that I think are the best pairing in that position in the NFL. And then on the defensive side of the ball, they got another one where they can combo on, which is the best pair of safeties in the league, I think, right now.
For sure. And before we jump over to defense, just want to point out, Gibbs had 7.7 yards per attempt rushing average. Montgomery was at 3.4, not as big of a game from him, but again, getting banged up like that and stuff, that probably affected some things. But you had Jahmyr Gibbs. Last week we saw what David Montgomery did. So it's nice to not always have that pressure, and knowing that, again, if something comes up in a game, you do have someone else to turn to. So let's go over to the defense there, James. You want to start with the linebacking unit, I think.
Yeah, the linebacking unit just as a whole played so well in this game. We had Rodrigo out there making some nice tackles, dropping back in coverage. He had one really nice play in coverage, I think, where he was lined up one-on-one with Aaron Jones, and the defensive line didn't get any pressure on that play, and Jones was able to come all the way across the formation. They got the ball to him, but Rodriguez was able to just stop him and make it so that it wasn't a massive play or anything. You got Jack Campbell was making plays all over the place. Trevor Nowaski came in, and, he had a sack, he had a quarterback hit, he had a tackle for loss, and I think he had like 5 or 6 tackles overall. So he's just being added into that too. So just the depth that they're showing without Barnes to this linebacker unit is something that I think is great, because they're going to need this if they don't get any more production out of the defensive line from getting pressure on the quarterback. They're going to need the defensive or the linebackers to step up.
Yeah, I think there was a play where the Vikings did a short pass. I think it was to Justin Jefferson to the left side of the line, north side, or the top of the screen. Then they came back. It looks like they tried to run the exact same play, the opposite. And on the opposite, I believe it was Malcolm Rodriguez was being blocked, and he blew up the block and went right through it and made the tackle. And I'm like, man, I love that play. I mean, great play on the linebacking core. Coach, I am sure you're going to echo a lot of James's initial thoughts there. What are you thinking on the linebackers?
I totally agree with you guys. And here's the thing is, our check down routes turned into what kind of gains? 8, 9, 10, 11 yards. Their check down routes were 2-yard gains. The big play Trevor made in the first or second quarter on that third down, he come down and open field tackle. Okay. Gibbs or Monty probably missed that tackle. Campbell, I think, had 2 or 3. Again, these little check down 2-yard routes that ended up 2-yard routes, not 6-yard routes. And, basically put the Vikings behind their schedule. And I think that's it. I mean, we can talk and I'm going to give a little shout out to Houston. I thought Houston did some good things. Akua, right? Is Akua 45? That he had some freaking big plays. And those are kind of linebacker type guys too. But it just, I think everybody picked up and did their little bitty part to try to offset our injuries. And film won't lie. Eye in the sky won't lie. This week, you'll really see, what happens with those guys getting better and better. But great effort by everybody.
And the Lions, as shorthanded as they were on the defensive line, still managed 4 sacks in this game. And so that was pretty incredible. I'm going to attribute some of that, or maybe a lot of that, to the secondary. I think our secondary played a phenomenal game in this. I know that Sam Darnold threw for 259 yards, 103.5 rating, but our secondary came up with some big plays, some big stops. And when Sam Darnold completed a pass, that pass pretty much had to be perfect for it to actually happen.
Totally agree. He threw a couple, even the touchdown to JJ, that was a half an inch, I mean, and again, that's part of the game. That one he threw over double coverage I think it was in the fourth quarter down the right sidelines to, wasn't to JJ, to number 3 anyways. That one there was another one where, when you show the replay, he made a strike. And then the deep ball that he threw, I think our safeties may have peaked a little bit for him to get that separation. But that one, we pushed the D lineman right into the lap of Darnold. He just let it go. So, kudos to our defense, our defensive backs in the front and what they did in certain situations. And, made the big plays when they need to. And field goals don't win games, touchdowns do.
Yeah, I believe that was Addison on that deep 51-yard play. That's when you were talking about. And,
thank you.
And that was incredible. And a lot of that is Brian Branch. The man just will not stop. James talked about this. We all talked about this on the previous show. The fact that the Lions have maybe the best safety combo in the NFL. Another impressive interception. He has 4 now. I believe that's what Kirby Joseph has. James, did you want to expand on the safeties?
They're just both playing so well, and not just getting interceptions, or they're covering guys. They're getting in there and run support. They're doing everything that you want your safeties to do. I don't know that it's even close that they're the best safety tandem in the NFL right now.
Nice. Well, here's the other thing, right? By having 2 good defensive backs there, 2 safeties, Coach, how does that affect the defensive secondary, knowing you've got help you can count on, and so you're not in the back of your head thinking, ooh, do I have to cheat here to make up for something? I guess it allows you to go back to what the Lions say, is just do your job, right?
Oh, correct. And I think that's the thing with it, is they know those guys are behind them. They know that if the ball is overthrown or if the ball is underthrown and things like that, they're going to be able to pick it up. The other thing too is you go with Branch concept. Let's talk about him real quick on what's that, the sequence of plays he had. First, he makes a run stop down in the box. Then he turns around and makes that pick. He baits the guy to make the pick. And I think those corners and those guys they're playing games, the 4 of them. Let's bait this guy. It's just, there's just too many big plays that they're making. And then another thing too is they sent Branch on a blitz and he gets a holding call because the running back can't control him on a blitz. So that the offset with your corners is I can play man coverage. I can press as much as I possibly can. And if I do get beat, I know one of those 2 great safeties are behind me, whatever coverage it is. And they know that they're going to bail them out. So they're both playing at that highest level. And
even on, I think, the touchdown pass where Amik Robertson was in coverage, that was really good coverage. That ball had to be perfect. And so, yeah, I'm loving the play of this secondary. They've done what we thought they were going to do, which is get better by the week. All right, guys, the Vikings tried to play some trickery against us, and this is something else I like. We stopped it. They did the handoff around to JJ, and it looked like they were trying to throw that ball to Darnold. Did you guys see the same thing? Is that where you thought the play was going?
Yeah. I did. I mean, I think that's what they're trying to do. I think they watched our film and they're going to try to do something that we do, and it just doesn't work. And again, disciplined defense with some rookies out there, with some undrafted guys out there. Disciplined defense, guys in position, but everybody holds their spot, and they believe they're gonna. If the play's going left, the guys on the left side are going to make the tackle. If the play's going right, the guys on the right side are going to make the tackle. The only screw up we had on that was on their first touchdown run. But I think that leads right into, he ran around a little bit, right? He held the ball there. Oh, he held the ball longer than any other quarterback probably did. Guess what? Nobody ever got open because we're so sticky. And that's just great team defense.
For sure. And so let's hit on special teams here. I know we liked our kicker, Jake Bates, field goal to win the game. I mean, that's as pressure of a situation as you get. It wasn't a super close field goal attempt, so everything was there. I mean, obviously, for him, the distance is a lot more available. But, Jake Bates has been everything we could have hoped for in a kicker at this point. Either you guys want to weigh in on what you're seeing out of Bates?
Yeah, I think that that they had to know what they had in him, and I think that them, they some people online kind of were critical of them just kneeling on the ball to to set up that field goal and stuff. But I think that they have to know what they have in him. They have to know that coming to a pressure situation in the playoffs, they got total confidence in trotting him out there for a 40-some yard field goal to win the game. And I think this was one of those tests to prove that, and he passed it with flying colors. He's also on the kickoffs gotten really good at dribbling it through the landing zone and into the end zone. And like Jerry talks about those hidden yards, that's saving the team 10 yards. He did it once this game too.
Gotcha. So remind the listeners on the rule and how that works slightly differently there, James.
If it lands in between the 20 and the end zone, and then goes into the end zone, you only get the ball at the 20. If you don't take the ball and return it, if you take a touchback that rolled into the end zone, you only get it at the 20 instead of the 30.
All right. Well, guys, let's turn over to turning points or pivotal moments. There might be a little bit of a repetition from some of the things we liked, because obviously things we liked played a role in this victory. I'm going to start by talking about overcoming first quarter adversity. You guys, something popped up on a memory on a timeline today. It was a year ago, Coach, that we were out in Baltimore, okay? And we played a purple team, okay? And that first quarter didn't go too well. And suddenly, and I was going to say something to you before the game about this, but I didn't, because I just didn't want to jinx anything, right? And then I'm sitting here watching this, and I'm like, oh, goodness. This is not a good start to the game. But overcoming adversity multiple times, overcoming their own mistake, and that was huge. That was pivotal to not just fold and fall apart and regroup the way they did. It was huge.
Yeah, and from that game last year to this game this year, two things happen. We don't set the edge. First of all, we fake a punt, which that's to set up things later on. Thank you, Dan Campbell, for trusting in your guys, and thank the guys for trusting in Dan Campbell that we're going to make up for it. Terry and Arnold doesn't come down and seal the edge. They score a short touchdown. We have penalties, whatever. Everything's going against us. They get the ball again. They drive right down. Where's the turning point? What happens in that situation? We give up 3. We don't give up and go down 14-0 like against the Ravens last year. It was like touchdown. I think they scored 175 points in that game, the Ravens. That's what it felt like. This game, we were down 10. And I'm like, okay, we're down 10. We average 30 points a game. That means we're going to win 30-10. We're in pretty good shape. And I think that's the thing that we do. And again, I threw my phone. I had my phone on the edge. I'm not talking to anybody. I can't listen to anybody. This is gonna be all right. But I never felt, it was weird because I didn't feel this game is over with. For some reason, I just felt we're too good on offense to not score points, and our defense stepped up. So instead of, it's 10-0 at home, hostile environment, everything is laid out for you for the Minnesota. It's laid out, guys, right? It was laid out, and it's 10-0 at the end of the first, I believe, 10-0, and then here we come. So
Yeah, and one of those pivotal moments in that first quarter was the fake punt that didn't work. And, we always go back to this. If it works, you're brilliant. If it doesn't, it's what the heck are you doing? There's often some room in between there. Coach already kind of weighed in on it. We'll talk more about it later. But, James, first quarter, how are you feeling after the fake punt, after it's 10-0? What's going through your mind?
I was starting to get scenarios of what we were going to talk about if the Lions lost and kept going and lost this game. And then that touchdown run by Gibbs was just massive. I think that was I think that's my turning point in the game, getting them right back in that game. And then they just never let off from there and kept going and won this game. But if they would have not scored there, and then maybe Minnesota comes back and scores again, gets a field goal or something, then you're down 2-3 scores in hostile territory, and guys could start getting down on themselves. But getting that touchdown, I think, really was instrumental in keeping the guys' spirits up, and that we can win this game.
Yeah, I agree. Getting the offense going. And like Coach said, the defense then just allowing a field goal on that second drive versus another touchdown and stuff really slowed the momentum from the Vikings down. And we already talked about it, but a pivotal moment was when Monty goes down, Gibbs comes in, and you had consistency at a high level at the running back position. In the second quarter, the Lions took the lead, and that was on that 35-yard pass to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Coach, you guys talked about it. Tim Patrick helping on the block there. That put the Lions in the lead. And again, we know the Vikings trailed a total of 3 minutes or something in 29 seconds all season so far. So suddenly that put the Vikings in unfamiliar territory. If you've never played from behind, you don't know how to play from behind. That's the other thing we'll talk at coming out later is, in some ways, this first quarter going the way it did is a good learning curve, building momentum block for the Lions. So then it just continued from there, right? The Brian Branch interception. He stops the momentum of the Vikings, he and the rest of the defense. Then the Lions go right down the field and score a touchdown to go up 21-10 right before the half. Coach, what are you seeing out of that?
That touchdown, I'm telling you, I'm watching it and I recap. I got two TVs going and the other one's on a 10-second delay, and I watched it again. And I watched the replays, and the design of that play was magnificent. So when they came out, the receivers are running around, and Goff is pointing here, and St. Brown's doing this, and I'm going, this is a fake. They're making it look like it's a pass play. Maybe I'm wrong. And so they stacked Raymond and St. Brown on the left. Okay. JMO lines up kind of in a tight split, and he actually holds his hands out like, what am I supposed to do? I swear to God, and he does that. And the next thing I know, he comes in short motions and he chips Van Kinkel, JMO, the skinniest receiver we got, chips him, and we hit a run play. Nobody touches him. I'm telling you right now, Brad Johnson, that the offense is so much fun to watch. And it's everybody thinks they're going to throw the ball because it's that 7-yard run, 8-yard run. And guess what? Not with this offensive line. Those guys were on the goalpost before he even got touched. So I'm sorry. I got excited on that. I rewatched it about 4 more times since the game going. Man, what a great play.
It phenomenally was great. It was phenomenal. It was a great play. There were so many examples of that in the game today. And I'm sure if you would have said to a Minnesota Vikings fan, yeah, Jamison Williams is going to have 1 catch in today's game, and it's going to go for -4 yards. Would you take that? And they would say yes, but they didn't get the win, even though that happened, because so many other pieces were there to help. And when the Lions offense couldn't do things later in the game, the defense stepped up. Talk about that. That was very pivotal there in the final minutes.
Oh, on the 3-and-out and the punt.
Yeah, the Lions. The Lions couldn't get the ball moving. They got sacked and they were forced to punt. And then it's like, man, the Vikings are just 3 first downs away from maybe finishing this game, but that didn't happen.
Yeah, and that's the thing is with Flores's defense. If we get behind schedule, they're going to win. They have to be into that position. But if we don't get behind schedule, then our playbook is open. So anytime they can pin their ears back, they got to, they can overcome that set. And I think that was the biggest thing with the couple of those we ran those 4 touchdowns that we scored 4 times in a row, and then all of a sudden it turned a little bit. But again, it all came back to what the Lions were doing, and they said don't panic in this situation. So
yeah, and that kept the Lions from going for it on like 4th and forever, saying we're going to put it on our defense. And again, the defense is the side of the ball that's had more injuries this season, a ton more, and it came in much less heralded than the offensive side of the ball. That being said, they relied on them. They got the job done to give the offense another run at it. All right, another thing on the final play of the game. Not the final play of the game. That was crucial too, I guess. But the final kick by the Detroit Lions. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but some teams have had this new way of trying to block a field goal. And that's where you leap over the center and you get the altitude by using the shoulder pads of a couple of your teammates to push you over the top. And I believe it was Jeremy Reisman from Pride of Detroit who was asking Coach Phipp about this earlier last week. And Phipp was like, oh, don't worry, we're fine. We know what we're doing, or something like that. But I don't think Phipp directly answered it. Well, we saw the answer today because the Vikings pulled it off, but Penei Sewell got in there and shifted over and got an arm on that guy. And that helped keep that final kick from being blocked. And so did either of you guys pick up on that? Is that I'm wondering how this is going to continue, because if the center gets touched by the leaping guy, I think it's a penalty, but as long as they can get over him. And so it's an interesting thing. What were you seeing on that, James?
Yeah, if they clear him without touching him, they can do that. But if they touch him at all, if they just graze him, it's a personal foul and a very, very bad penalty for the special teams. I saw this called in a high school game just the other day, where they called hurdling for trying to go over the lineman on a punt. So I mean, I don't know how much it's worked. I mean, it's worked a handful of times, I guess, but you don't see it work all that much. You got to have somebody that is exceptionally good to be able to hurdle an NFL-sized lineman without touching him at all.
Those are some great points. Coach, what about you? Is this just like a fad that's going to be here for a few weeks and then schemes are going to change it, or what are you thinking?
Well, I think if they start having some success with it, yeah, they're going to keep doing it. I mean, you can use these great athletes, and I think there's a guy, I can't remember who it was last year that did it a couple times and probably got some blocks, but they're gonna the centers and the special teams guys, coaches that are doing the blocking are going to figure something out where, you know what, if you're going to start doing that, we're going to stand up. I mean, it is because they're down. It's kind of like the tush push. I mean, you're going to get to it. So I think it's a fad concept till it works a bunch of times, and then people are going to try to do it. But just like the Philadelphia Eagles with the tush push, nobody else can do it like they can other than Buffalo, but their quarterback's 250 pounds.
Very true. All right, guys, we got to, take a look at this from the other side. What didn't look great to us? What areas can be improved on? What areas might be concerning? All right. I guess I'd say starting off early in this game, there was some pressure on Goff early by the Minnesota Vikings. I know some of that came from the guard position where Awasika was in there. Coach, what were you seeing from the pressure for the Vikings? How were they able to get back there on Goff so early into the backfield?
Well, they had some pretty good games. I mean, our left side, Decker and Glasgow had a couple whiffs. But I think the big thing with that was we started doing some chipping and trying to get that. And I think we went to the quicker pass route because of that. They may have, again, I haven't broken down enough. They may have ran a little bit of different scheme on their blitz concept. I don't know if they did a twist or they brought, instead of the left outside guy, they brought the right outside guy when they're showing the left, things like that. So they may have been bringing pressure from the strength, the receiver side. And I thought we made some good adjustments on that. I think we changed our route concept too, to adjust by what they were going to do with that. But that really worked when I talked a little bit ago. When they're on schedule, when we're on schedule on offense, they can't do that stuff. And when we got off schedule and they had, oh my God, they have to throw here, then that's when I think they got the pressure on there. So I think we did a great job of balancing that as the game went on, especially on those four straight drives for touchdowns, and of course the drive going down to get to kick the winning field goal.
Yeah, it felt like the Lions were just in a groove on that final drive, and you felt it. The Lions defense had 4 sacks on the day, but the pass rush wasn't overly strong. Darnold had a lot of time to throw the ball. James, what were you seeing on that?
Yeah, there was a few times where he could have just sat there and made a sandwich and then thrown the ball. It seemed like, but they had to do some different things. The defensive line wasn't getting a lot of pressure on its own, so they had to bring some linebackers. 3 out of those 4 sacks were from linebackers. Josh Paschal was the only one that came from a defensive lineman. So I think it just shows that they maybe need to look a little bit more at a trade for a defensive end. Maybe Isaiah Thomas is that guy who, if he plays next week, he was an inactive this week. I'm going to guess probably just didn't have enough time to get completely up to speed in this defense. But they got to have him on the 53 for at least 2 more weeks. So I imagine we'll see him pretty soon.
Yeah, I would expect so as well. And we're gonna talk more about potential trade stuff as well before we end this show today. James, another thing that's a little surprising maybe to some people is Sam Laporta is not catching 25 passes a game this year. In fact, he had 1 catch, was it again today, on only 2 targets. Is this a scheme thing? Is this I don't know. I mean, if you told the Vikings fans, Jameson Williams has 1 catch for -4 yards, Sam Laporta has 1 for 25, you're taking that every day, but you still didn't win the game. At the same time, is this something that you think needs to change, or what are your thoughts on this?
I think it's something that will change eventually. I think part of it is the taking what the defense gives you. Part of it is Laporta still, I think, maybe feeling some of the effects of that injury that he had in the preseason. And so I think that he'll get it going as the season goes along. But I mean, Khalif Raymond having 3 catches for 39 yards, Tim Patrick 2 for 25. That makes up that production there pretty easily, getting that kind of numbers out of your 3rd and 4th receivers.
Yeah, I really like seeing the ball spread around like that with so many different people contributing. Coach, I saw you nod in your head. You're feeling good the way this tight end room's working, and even though they had more tight ends active, they had Zylstra up, I believe, for this game. But seeing that production, you're good with it?
Yeah, I am. I mean, take the game 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. Brock had 5 catches, I think, right? 4 or 5 catches in one game, something like that. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, we were like, why is Laporta not catching the ball? Well, Jamo's catching the ball, and Monty's catching the ball, and I mean, we can go on and on and on. So, he must be doing his job because he's pulling guys away from those guys. And again, he made the splash play last week. He had a big play this week, and the rest is he's blocking. He'll get his time. There's going to be a team that can't cover the tight end, and he's going to go for 10 and 160. So not worried about it.
Yeah, I also think that Flores' defensive scheme played a part in that, in Laporta not going out for as many routes as he normally would, because he brings so many exotic blitzes that I think that they felt that they had to keep the tight ends in more to block.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense there. I mean, that offensive line needed help with all that pressure. And the Vikings did a great job of getting pressure in there, and the Lions just did a great job of taking what they could get in. And maybe that's the other part of the reason why we didn't see those long shots was, get rid of the ball a little bit quicker and take what you can get and maybe get some yards after catch. We saw a lot of that happen in this game. Well, let's move over to some major storylines, some big things that happened, right? The first one, which we talked about, a critical, crucial thing, was the fake punt from their own 30 on the first drive. It didn't work. It was a little bit of a different look than we've seen. It wasn't their traditional fake punts that we've seen. And I can't believe I'm saying they're traditional fake punts because we've seen a few out there. But, Coach, what were your thoughts on this? I mean, some people, I get text messages, that was the stupidest thing ever. Well, and again, it's stupid if it doesn't work. It's brilliant if it does. But back away from it, what's your perspective on a move like that?
It's what we do. I mean, again, I was like, Coach, are you serious right now? But whatever they lined up in was what they practiced against, and they gave it to us. So the Lions go into games and go, if they give us this, we're going to do this, and that's just the way it is. I don't have a problem with it. I live with it. We won another game because of it. Yeah, we started out in the whole 10-0. We gave them a short field, but we still climbed the ladder. The other thing is nobody thinks about it or looks at it, that is something, whatever happens in that first quarter is going to come back and be a positive with us in the fourth quarter. For instance, now you can't come after the punter because you got to worry about them. Now you can't put pressure on him. Now you got to sit back and worry about it, which takes our flyers and our guys coming down, and we can cover the punt better. It's that we flip the field. Granted, we flip the field there for them, but the field gets flipped down the way, and it's all playing out. And again, teams have to practice against the Detroit Lions and waste time that they would normally not waste during specialty teams, because the Detroit Lions are crazy with that stuff. Hey, keep doing it, boys. We're winning.
James, how about you on the fake punt? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, like what Jerry said, it's what Dan Campbell does, and he tends to do it a lot in the first half on teams to try to catch them off guard more. I think teams are a little bit onto it, maybe, or not completely just ignoring the fact that some team could go for it on a punt in their own 30. But it was a different look, like you mentioned. It looked like it was kind of an RPO play where Jalen Reese-Maben was going to try to pitch the ball out to somebody that was trailing behind him, but they had a Vikings player who made a really good play and broke that up. So I mean, kudos to them for stopping that. But it's regularly going to be a part of the arsenal. And like Jerry said, anytime any other new look you give them is a couple minutes that they have practice that they have to waste. Every opponent in the future, the rest of the season, has to waste a couple minutes to deal with that play and doing another look. This is a totally different one than they've done before. So that's another one.
Yeah, I'm going back to what Coach just said. It's what we do, NFL, okay? And I'm going to go right to some of the announcing towards the end of the game, right? Greg Olsen and the other announcer, I forget who it was. Yeah, I think Greg Olsen said, as the 2-minute warning's about to approach, his comment, and I backed it up so the people in my house could hear it. He said, they do realize they're losing, don't they? And it was just before the 2-minute warning. It's like, well, yeah, but have you seen how fast this offense can move? We don't want to give the ball back to Minnesota. And then, like 3 plays later, as the ball was in the air, because Goff threw it when everybody thought the Lions were just going to run, he threw it to St. Brown. And you heard him quickly say, Dan Campbell likes being aggressive, or the aggressive calls by Dan Campbell. And, maybe it's like people are waiting for the Lions to fail on this aggressiveness, but we've said it. The Lions have changed the way football is played, and you guys both brought this up. The Lions are used to going for it on 4th downs or fake plays on 4th downs. When other teams have to do that, it's not part of their repertoire. So their chances of succeeding is going to be lower than the Lions' chance. And you guys, it's not 1989 football we're playing here. It's 2024. The game has evolved. And if you're not sure how, watch the funnest show on turf. It's called the Detroit Lions. And the Vikings tried a trick play today. And you know why? Probably because they watched the Lions do the exact same trick play last week. So I'm all into this because this Detroit Lions team is more talented and more fun and more successful than any I can remember in my lifetime. You guys got anything to add to that?
Well, a couple things. Go ahead, James. I'll follow up.
Oh, I was just going to talk about Olsen. I mean, it's interesting. He's usually pretty good, I think, in normal games that I've seen him do. But whenever he covers a Lions game, it seems like he kind of doesn't like the Lions or something. I don't know if maybe something happened on the field years ago, and but he always seems to kind of dig on the Lions a little bit. And when I watch other games of other teams, he always seems to be pretty neutral and a pretty good caller of the game and stuff. So it was a little odd. I mean, even though when that was getting close to the 2-minute warning there, and they weren't snapping the ball before the 2-minute warning, I was like, what are they doing? And then I thought about it for a second, and I'm like, oh, that's what they're doing. It's Dan Campbell again showing the ultimate confidence in his team that you're going to move the ball, you're going to get us some field goal range, and we're going to win the game. It's kind of like the basketball coach drawing up the play and saying, this is what we're going to do after so and so makes the free throw. Just like assuming that. So I don't have any problem with it. I don't know what he's normally pretty good, but a lot of people were upset. I saw a lot of people on Twitter who are complaining about him after that game.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you. Normally he's a very good announcer and he does a great job. I keep hearing some of these things of the criticism of the aggressiveness on the Lions. And it's gotten old to me. But Coach, what do you got on all this?
Well, I mean, they want to be the first one to say they said it. They want to be the first one to say, I told you so. And you know what? I told you so. Your comments were useless because they were wrong. Ha ha ha. I'm laughing at you. Dan Campbell talked about composure the whole week. That's what he talked about at halftime. Composure. Lions have composure. When has a team ever needed to use 2 minutes to go down for a winning field goal? And they didn't effectively run that clock completely out to zeros or down to 15 seconds so the other team doesn't have a chance. The other thing is, too, by the way the Lions were doing that, they're forcing O'Connell to make a decision. I better use a timeout. Well, then you're not going to have any timeouts if you get the ball back with 30 seconds. Great play. Here's the one thing that Greg Olson and the rest of you, last year, a few years ago, the Chiefs were at their own 25 with 13 seconds and down 3 against the Buffalo Bills, who had the best pass rush in the NFL. 2 pass plays later, with 3 seconds on the clock, they kicked the tying field goal. Let me say that again. 13 seconds. 13 seconds, 2 plays, field goal, overtime, Chiefs win. So you can say anything you want about it. Great job, because what ended up happening on this is they had one opportunity to throw one long ball because of guys not lined up right or guys moving and the clock shouldn't have ran out. There's 1 second put on the clock. And the other good thing about it is Trevor Nowatzki got a sack. Thank you, Detroit Lions.
Yes, and you know what? I don't think we talked about in the pivotal moment or whatnot, but he didn't even get the Hail Mary off. Darnold did not get the Hail Mary off. Trevor Nowatzki makes the sack, and that's another major storyline is we've seen the story in the past, and it ends differently than it ended today, and that's the difference. That's one more example of why this team is different. The Vikings don't even get the pass off. The game's over. Guys, let me ask you, and so, again, and it's not just Greg Olson, it's multiple people who have continued that narrative. And you're right, Coach, I think that's exactly it. They want to be the first one to say they knew more than the coach. They knew more than the Lions players. And so let me ask you this, though. The Lions, last 2 plays before the field goal attempt, they took a knee and just ran the clock down. The counter to this is, because on first down, they ran to Gibbs to the outside. He went down, lost a half a yard or nothing. But the thought is, well, why don't you just run it up the middle with Gibbs and try and get 3 to 5 yards? Maybe he breaks a big one. And so there's that. There's obviously the thing in your mind, which is a couple drives earlier, Montgomery had a fumble and the ball went on the ground. Is this, hey, we're not going to try and just break it, because if you break the tackles and you get through the line, you could score a touchdown. You don't have to worry about your field goal kicker. But, so where are you guys on this? Coach, will start with you, and then James will go to you.
Fumble the snap, fumble the handoff, get a big run, score a touchdown, leave time on the clock, give them an opportunity to come back and score. Look at your kicker. He says, I want to kick. This is where I want it. I don't care if it's 44 yards or 55 or 60. Confidence in them. Plus, I don't think we want to get close to the extra point because I think that's the one he struggles with the most. Totally great coaching, period. And that's what they practice, guys. They practice that every week, every day, every special team, everything. Take a knee, kick it. They don't just make this up as they're going along. They practice this. I seriously, I'll guarantee they've practiced this where they've done the hurry up offense and they've probably taken a knee, even though it's in practice. And it's the exact same thing they do every day in practice. Another great play.
James?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the Jake Bates mentality thing. I think the Lions all along wanted this. I think Dan Campbell had it in his mind. In this big game, I want it won by my kicker because we're going to need him down the road, and we want him to have done this already before, and for it to be routine down the road in a big game late in the season, in the playoffs, whenever. I think Campbell, and it's just a hunch, I don't know about that, but I think Campbell was just playing purely for a field goal, which is kind of unlike him.
Yeah. There's a shift, everybody. Dan Campbell got conservative. Oh, my goodness. And that's the thing, I guess, right? We get criticized for being aggressive. Now, you're taking a knee. Now you're getting too conservative. But let's talk about the final play of the game. All right, the final part of the game. We learned about a loophole in the rules here, right? With 1 second left, the Vikings were lined up with an illegal formation, and the clock was running. They were able to spike the ball. Now, if a player had been moving for the Vikings, it would have been a false start, and then there would have been a 10-second runoff. But with an illegal formation, you take a 5-yard penalty, but then you still get a play. So would that also work if you're lined up off sides, James? Could you be 20 yards down the field and just not move, and then you have an offside penalty? Or would they not blow the whistle for that? You know what I'm saying? Like, couldn't you just line up 20 yards down the field after you didn't catch the pass and somebody else ran it short? And as long as you're not moving, it's not a false start. It's just an illegal formation. Could that work?
I suppose. I don't know. I mean, I was surprised that they didn't have the runoff.
Right.
And the announcers were saying that too. So I was pretty surprised that they gave them that extra play. But what the Lions did on that extra play, they were prepared for it. I think that even though it seemed like the coaches thought that that the game should just be over, as well. But they were also prepared for one more play. I really like how they defended that Hail Mary on there, and only sending basically 3 guys, but putting them all on the same side, and overloading one lineman basically, and then Trevor Nowatzki comes through and gets the sack.
Yeah, because on the play before, they sent nobody, and he just had all day to sit back there and look for somebody, which took a bunch of time off the clock.
Yeah.
Coach, were you surprised by this as well, with the formation thing? And James even said it. Campbell was celebrating for a half a moment on the sideline, smiles and everything. The game's over. They had the word final at the bottom of the screen. Then suddenly everything comes back.
Yeah, and that might be something that they're going to change down the way, that if you have an illegal formation at the end of a game like that for the last second, the clock's got to tick off. I mean, the problem is they all got back and lined up. It was just a legal formation. So that's a dead ball foul is the problem. So that's why the 1 second's getting put back on the clock. So, but again, I like, the 2 things the Lions did on that, the one where they didn't rush anybody. I'm like, why are we not rushing anybody? Then of course my coaching clicked in. I said, because we want them to complete a pass, and preferably about a 30-yard pass, because those big offensive linemen aren't going to run down and line up, which almost happened in this situation. So yeah, I thought we played it well. And then, like James said, the overload to one side and bring a linebacker that looks like he's going to be in pass coverage that can run pretty well was just a great call. And I think it gave them an opportunity to line up and do it the right way. So, give or take. But I think that's something the NFL might look at, because why not sprint up and just not line up right and quick slap the ball down, and that you still get a second out even though you lose 5 yards. So, but we'll see. It's the good thing is we won, and nothing happened in that 1 second that we had to worry about.
All right, well, let's talk about the Lions' pass rush going forward, right? We didn't see a whole lot from the defensive line. So did what you see today change your mind on anything? Does it make you think it's okay, or do you think the Lions need to make a move on things? Coach, we'll start with you, and then James will have you weigh in.
Well, I thought for what we went into that game with, and for the whole week long, the aftermath of Hutch getting hurt, Hutch the wrecker, him getting hurt that whole week long, they're asked questions on it every week. Are we trading? Are we looking? And for these guys to stay focused on the task at hand, and that's to win a football game, was incredible. And the rookies and the guys that came, we brought O'Connell, right? Brought him up. Pascal, I thought, did a lot of job. I thought Levi did a good job. You even made a point during the game. Did you guys see Levi dropping the pass coverage? That's a big outside linebacker, boys. And so to see that, and to see Houston, even though he didn't make a splash, he had one good pressure. One of the best plays I liked about Houston, not sure if it's his assignment, but he went underneath the tackle on one play, on a run play, and basically just shot himself into that inside gap to make sure it didn't turn into a run play. So I think the blitz concepts hurt us a couple times. We know that. AG's not sitting back there going, man, I'm just going to rush 4 guys, because with Hutch and McNeil and those guys, Reeder and them. So for what we were dealing with, I thought we did an incredible job. I really did. And the eye in the sky, again, to go back to that, the film sessions this week, the learning this week, the rights and the wrongs from these guys that stepped up are going to make them much better. Some of these guys, it's going to be that thing we talked about at the beginning of the year, where the first week, your best improvement has to be between your first week and your second week. Well, there were some guys out there today that were on their first week. Do we need somebody? I think we do. Not just because of the simple Hutch injury, but the Hutch, Kamensky, Barnes, Payco, Davenport. That's a lot of dogs. And so, yeah, we're going to, and they're working on it. But if we don't get it done, AG is going to come up with some blitz concepts, and those corners and safeties we have are pretty damn good. And they just continue to get better, and our linebacker. So pleased with it. We'll see what happens this week.
All right, James, how about you?
Yeah, I think at a minimum they need some more depth. Kind of piggybacking a little bit on what Jerry said, there's just so many injuries at one unit of the defense that they need to restock there a little bit. Maybe Isaiah Thomas could be part of that in the future coming up. But I see them trading, for a somewhat cheap veteran guy who can come in and give them some pass rush. A guy like Zadarius Smith. I think would be perfect. The Browns lost today. They're 1-6. They already traded Amari Cooper. Deshaun Watson's out for the season now with a torn Achilles. So I think they're going to pack it in and try to move some guys in the next week or so for draft picks. It was interesting to see, though, that when James Houston was playing, a lot of times they had him playing a different role than what he's kind of played, where they just had him in on, 3rd and 10. Or anything. They were playing him on 1st and 2nd down, and they were playing him pretty much in a not you're going around the tackle. He was just going right into him to set the edge, not his normal trying to get low and go right around the tackle. So a little bit different role for him. I don't know if that'll continue if they bring reinforcements in, or if that was just something for a game or two. But the Vikings also have a pretty good offensive line. I don't think it's quite as good as Detroit's normally, but Detroit's didn't play that great this week either. But the Vikings do have a pretty good offensive line. So what the Lions were able to do without Hutchinson was still pretty solid.
For sure. And you bring up some interesting points, right? Like with Houston and his different role, and coach already hit on it a little bit. You've got some guys that are playing and doing some different things that they haven't been doing. So you are going to see some growth out of that. And Isaiah Thomas, we weren't shocked that he wasn't active because they just got him there. It's going to take some time. Think about when Tim Patrick came over and we signed him to the practice squad, right? He wasn't active for week 1. Took some time to get them in there. I still think we can win if we don't make any moves, but I like our chances a lot better making moves because, Coach, you listed all of them off. It's not one player. There's like 5 of them. And obviously, you're not going to get anyone to replace Aiden Hutchinson, but you can get a starting caliber player out there. I like the route that James has talked about. We've all kind of agreed. Get someone that's got a year or 2 left, who's a veteran, who's at a somewhat more affordable price financially for salary cap and trade pick wise. And so Zadarius Smith seems like one of the great candidates out there. All the people that want Hassan Reddick, that ship has sailed, that jet has taken off. So you can say goodbye to that one. But there's a number of guys out there, and the Lions have been looking. They continue to look. and they still got 2 weeks and 2 days. And so that's more than enough time for Brad Holmes to make something happen. I believe they will make something happen. And it might only be for one player, but we already saw them bring one player in. I wouldn't be shocked to have them maybe bring in a couple players, whether one's from another practice squad and one's from a trade or whatnot. But you're exactly right, guys. They need to continue to work on the depth there because we still have like a dozen games left this season, right? That's a lot of football to be played. And within 2 weeks, you can't make any trades. So if you're going to make anything, it's going to have to happen soon.
How was your blood pressure when Pascal went down twice, guys?
Exactly. I'm sitting here thinking, no.
This isn't happening.
Well, guys, the Lions lead the NFC North, and as one of you already pointed out, they lead the entire NFC at this point. What a win for the Detroit Lions today. Guys, the show's getting long, so we're going to have to get out of here pretty quick, but just want to point out at 5-1, they're tied with the Vikings. They have the tiebreaker. The Packers won on a last-second field goal at 5-2. The Bears are on a bye at 4-2. Still, the only division in football where every team has a winning record. Welcome to the black and blue, folks. Coach James, we will get more into what things look like overall when we preview the Titans next week and get more into that. Any final thoughts as we wrap up and get out of here?
Just get healthy, boys, and get better and get smarter.
And maybe bring in one or two reinforcements.
Hear to both of those thoughts. Thank you so much for tuning in, folks. You can find more episodes and content at notthesameoldlions.com. Tell your friends and family about the show. Like, comment on socials. Please subscribe regardless of your listening platform. And until next time, stay gritty, my friends.